Good morning. We have arrived at the Cherokee Open event in North Carolina, and I'm about to watch a very beautiful sunrise once the clouds get out of the way. As part of my ongoing effort to maximize my time spent when I can't do anything else, I'm going to make another video and chat with you guys. I thought I would go over 3 different ways that I maintain the maximum amount of efficiency I can with my 3D printers. It is very important that you're using your printers as often and as effectively as possible, especially if you're getting more orders than you can make in a given day. So it may not always be a problem, but when it's a problem, it can get out of control very quickly if you're not using your printers in an efficient manner. You really need to be on that, especially if you have a full-time job and you're doing this in your spare time. There's a few things you can do that make that a lot easier. So the first main thing is, if you have enough orders to support it, your printers should always be running. That's not always going to be possible. I would say, unless you're printing things that take multiple hours or days at a time, you can't maintain 100% efficiency. There's always going to be some point where a printer's not running. What you can do is minimize the times where the printer is stopped. And the way you can approach that is several different ways. And I'm going to start with how I did this while I was working full time. And then maybe you can reverse that to apply to whatever your situation is. So when I had a full-time position and I was doing 3D printing, I needed every ounce of printing time that I could get because I was falling behind on orders. And one of the most important things I found on Etsy is that the faster you're shipping, the more people are going to buy things. They don't want to wait 2 or 3 weeks. We're in an Amazon world where 2 days is already too long sometimes. What I would do is look at the times of the day that I can operate the printers. So that would be for a full-time job, Monday to Friday, let's say. I need to leave my house by 7 a.m. to get to my 8 o'clock job. I leave my job at 5, we'll say, so I get home, we'll call it 6 o'clock with commute. So I have anywhere between when I wake up and 7 o'clock in the morning to operate the printers. And then I have between 6 o'clock and the time I go to bed to finish the printers, or to do something with them. So how I would plan this out per printer is, what are those time gaps where I cannot touch them, and what job should I send to them that can fill that time? So for me, printing off a full plate of deployment zone markers for the wargaming, setting up your territory and all that, the full plate, the way I have it set up and all the settings to make sure it gets the quality I want, takes about 8.5 hours. So what I don't want to do is send that at 1 p.m. and then it's 9 p.m., but I'm already in bed because I'm old. So then that printer's just going to finish after I've gone to bed, and it's going to do nothing all night. So instead, I would look and say, okay, I need this 8.5 hour job at some point. When should I send it? Well, I can send it at night when I go to bed. I could send it at, let's say, 8:30 if I'm about to go to bed, and it's going to be done in 8.5 hours. So it should be finishing at about 5 in the morning. So if I wake up at 5:30, I've only lost 30 minutes of printing time, and I can get another job ready to send to the printer to work on while I'm going to my full-time job. And with that, maybe I send another set. Maybe it's another 8-hour chunk. So that takes us, let's say I wake up at 5:30, I clean off the print bed, I get it sent there again by 6:30, and then that's another 8 hours and a half. So we get that job finished around 2:30. Well, that just used up 3.5 hours of dead time with the printer before I get home from work, assuming that I get home and immediately address that. So during the day, if I'm leaving and I know it's like a 10-hour gap, then I want to find a 10-hour print job. Maybe I can fit an extra couple of things on that build plate, or maybe there's a piece of terrain that has a single part that takes 10 hours to print. I would send that instead, because I want to make sure that the printer doesn't stop running, or if it does stop running, there's the least amount of time in there being wasted, quote unquote, because nobody is there to take it off and send the next job. So I would break out my day into how much time do I have, and for sake of round numbers, we're going to say 2 hours in the morning. We'll say I wake up at 5 because that was my normal uptime. I have 2 hours before I leave, and then I'm going to be back in 10 hours, and then I have another, we'll say 3 hours before I go to bed. So in those time blocks, I want to make sure that I'm utilizing the printer for exactly those amounts of time, or as close to it as possible. If I wake up at 5 and I need to print 8 things that each take an hour, then maybe I print 1 or 2 of those before I send my 10-hour job to be running while I'm at work. So I have objective mats that take a little over an hour a piece to print. And then I also have some measuring arcs that take about 45 to 50 minutes each. So depending on when I actually get up, I'll send 1 of those or 2 of those because I can clear them and send a long job right before I leave. And that maximizes the overall time that the printer is running. And it makes sure that I don't waste a 10-hour block of time on one of those 1-hour prints. I don't want to send 1-hour prints right before I go to bed. And it's the same thing when I get home. You know, as soon as I clear off all the printers, I want to send 1 or multiple things to those printers that takes up the time that I have where I know I can clear it one more time before I go to bed. So I may send jobs to the printers at 7:30 that are going to be done at 8:45, and then I'll send the overnight jobs that will be done by 5 a.m. or as close to it as possible. So it's kind of like a calendar, and you want to fill your calendar with as many appointments as possible, but you need to know that you can't adjust those while you're gone or while you're sleeping. So try to schedule that. Do the math in your head when the printer tells you or the slicer tells you this is how long this is going to take. When is the best time to print that? Is it going to interfere with me using the printer for the other things that I need? Hopefully that helps you understand how I maximize efficiency. The next thing is sometimes you get an order that is maybe coming up on its due date and you're not even close to having it finished. And for situations like that where you need to get an order done and you're not sure how to do it because the printers take so much time, there's a concept in my head where I call it like a deep order versus a wide order, where a deep order might be this building, this piece of terrain is 36 hours and it's only 1 piece or it's only 2 pieces. So if it's 1 piece, it's going to take 36 hours. I can't speed that up without potentially risking the quality of the print. So that is a deep job. There's nothing I can do to make that job quicker. So if it's due today and I have to spend 36 hours printing it, it will not ship today. The laws of time and how printers work won't let you do that. Even if that job is in, 2 parts, it might be that 1 part takes 10 hours, the other part takes 26. So there's not much way to make that come out of the printers faster. A wide job, on the other hand, is something that maybe it takes the same 36 hours to print, but it's got 8 different pieces that assemble it. And those 8 pieces maybe vary in time between 4 and 10 hours a piece to add up to 36 hours. Those you can take wide if you have a fleet of printers. So something to think about when you're trying to get an order finished is, can I spread this across all of my printers to bang this order out? In the instance that I was discussing with the deployment zones, where they take about 8.5 hours for a full plate, if I need 8 of those and I don't have 8.5 hours, I could send maybe 2 deployment zones to 4 different printers and finish that whole job in 2 hours instead. Now, the limiting factor on that is, do I have the right filament for all of those printers to do their part of this job at the same time? And that's something that I stock filament for in order to let me go wide with an order when I need to. The popular colors of my accessories that I know that we sell regularly and consistently, I want to have 5, 6, 7, 8 rolls of that color so I can spread an order wide when I need to. So red, blue, yellow, green, purple, orange, white, black, all the main candidates that are regular and repeat sellers. I want as many spools of that as possible. So if I need to take an order wide, I can do that. It's more efficient if you're using multicolored printing to to limit the amount of times you're having to change filament out. So it's better to print that in one job. But if you need to finish something, split it up, send it to multiple things. If I've got an order I got to take to the mailbox by 5 o'clock today, and it's noon and it's 12 hours of printing, I'm going to find as many printers as I can to split that across to get that job done. And you can even do this depending on your printer and the way that it might work with multiple rolls of filament. So I use printers that have a device that uses 4 different spools, so I can make multiple colors. You can even hop a single or a couple rolls of filament from one multi-material setup to the next while the jobs are actually printing, if you only have that one roll. So if you've got, for example, a part that's half blue and half red, and they all start with blue and end with red, you can start all the prints on that blue part. If you've got, if blue is your main color, or maybe black, it's probably black, put black in all the printers, start them all, but don't load in the second color yet. So if you need red in 4 printers and you have 1 spool of red, get all the jobs to the point where they've finished the black part and they're waiting on a spool of red. So you've at least utilized all of that time that it takes to print the black is already done, and it's just waiting on the red. So maybe that black part is 2/3 of the time and the other third is the red. You've knocked out 2/3 of the total job, and then you just hop that red spool to finish off each of those on those printers. It's not as efficient, but it's a way to make it work when you have less spools than you need for a given color. Side note on that, I know a lot of people like to run a spool of filament out, like finish it up, because as filament gets closer to being emptied, sometimes the spools like to get themselves tangled if you let them go because they're getting more tightly coiled. Or if you need to use a reusable spool, you want to finish that color off. I'm the opposite. I like to keep as many spools of a given color live as possible so I can use them. If I know I need 7 reds, I would rather have 7 reds that are all at 10% than 1 red spool that's not used yet, because it gives me the option to spread it out if I have to. Hopefully that makes sense. If you're not doing multicolor printing, that part probably won't apply to you. But as the multicolor printers continue to expand, there's so many brands offering it now. There's Bamboo, Elegoo's got it, Creality has it, Anycubic, Prusa. There's multiple filaments is the future of 3D printing for now. Who knows what it's going to look like in the future? I'd love to see it be something where it's actually melting and brewing the color for you between the different plastics instead of switching between them. But that's kind of a pipe dream. Hey, there's that beautiful sunrise I told you I was waiting on at the beginning of the video. Oh my goodness, this is a lovely part of the country. Cherokee, North Carolina, if you're ever in the vicinity. It's wonderful. Anyways, the third thing that I try to do to make sure I'm staying at peak efficiency is to spend your time overlapping as many tasks as possible. So right now, as an example of that for me, I'm spending time where I can't be doing anything else because I'm waiting for the event to open. I'm going to go on a little leisure trip to the Smoky Mountains National Park because I have time to kill. But all of the videos that I've recorded so far have been in my car, which is essentially free time for me to spend. It may not be the highest quality way to spend my time, but it's still something of value. Even if you don't watch the video, who knows? I don't know if people are going to watch this or not, but this helps me because I get used to talking to myself. I get to get ideas out of my head that can hopefully help other people. But even if they don't, it challenges me to think about them. And it channels that in a way that I can reflect back on in the future. So these kinds of videos I'm doing just as much for myself as I am for you. But try to have things that overlap. If you have a lot of orders to pack and ship, don't let your printer stop printing while you're doing that. Keep your printers juggling. You want to keep as many things in the air running as possible. So if you're packing and your printers finish something, stop what you're doing with the packing and go get the printers moving again, and then go back to the task that you were doing, the packing and shipping. You don't want anything idling, including yourself if possible. Now, you can't 100% this. I don't think you can get a perfect score on life optimization, but this is something that applies not just to a 3D printing business, but it applies to your day job. It applies to your life. If you can have concurrent things happening at the same time instead of a sequential order of do this, now do this, now do this, you can create time for yourself that you didn't used to have. One of the reasons that I think like grocery delivery and food delivery has become more popular over the last, we'll say 10 years, maybe 5 years is when it really exploded, is it allows you to spend your time doing something else. It's not that people don't like grocery shopping, but some of them don't, but they don't have time. And you're basically spending money to buy time for yourself to have somebody else do that for you. So you're essentially, you're doing two things at once by having somebody deliver your groceries to you. You are getting groceries and you're doing whatever else you need to be doing. You're packing and shipping, you're printing. If you are in a restaurant and you're making food and you know that one piece of food takes 10 minutes and the other takes 5, you're not going to make them one at a time unless you have to. You're going to start the 10-minute order, and then 5 minutes into it, you're going to start the 5-minute thing as well and time them to be finished at the same time. You can apply that to so many different things in your life that don't need to be in sequential order. They need to be done, and they each have a time that needs to be done, but figure out which of those things you can have happening at the same time, or at least close to the same time, and schedule it that way. Do it that way. If I know, this is, you're probably already doing this. It's like, if you need to run errands, you don't go to your car, you go to the store, you come back home, then you go to the other store and come back home, and then you go to lunch, and then you come back home. You leave and you do all those things at once to cut out all those extra trips back and forth. So bundle tasks that need to be done as much as humanly possible to get those hours back in your life that are otherwise not being efficiently spent. It's impossible to tell you how many different ways that could be accomplished, but if you look for it and you look for things that could be happening while other things are happening, and you apply those, you can get a lot more time for your money out of different things, or a lot more money for your time, whichever direction you're needing. Try to plan that out. Be more thoughtful about what you're doing with your time. And if you feel unproductive at a given moment, what can you do to be productive? Even if it's less productive, that's better than not productive at all. This video, again, as an example, I would otherwise be doing nothing productive but like self-development by like listening to other videos of how to be better at XYZ. I try to always be having value added things in my life at every point in time. The only time that that's not happening is when I'm just trying to have leisure time. So when I go to the Smoky Mountains, I'm not going to be listening to a podcast on marketing. I'm going to just be enjoying that and enriching myself by being in nature. But at other times, if I'm just driving, let's make that time worth more than just I'm in a car singing karaoke poorly to myself. Anyways, I hope that helped you and gives you some perspective on how your 3D printing business can be more efficient with the resources that you already have. The more printers you have, the more that this needs to apply in order to keep those printers running. If you've got any questions or comments, or if I'm looking at something wrong, please let me know. But if you don't, that's fine too. I'm not worried about the YouTube algorithm. I'm just recording these for me and for anybody that does want to listen to a 40-somethings guy ramble about his own shop. Have a good rest of your day.